Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 124 of I Got Gameplay. Yes, this show is basically done on pre-tape because we can't stream live due to some issues. Not going to say what they are, but they are. So, here tonight we've got myself, of course. I am your host, Michael Burhan, and we also have Mr. Dave Wade.
Hello.
And, including with Dave, we have the other Sean Connery, of course, of Retro Unlimited. He is Nick Horacek.
Yeah, only I don't beat my wife, so...
So you know. And also, we have with us a special guest promoting the Shenmue 500k group. He is James Reiner. James!
Hey everyone, thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, thank you for being on the show, James. Now, tell us a little bit about the group. What's the Shenmue 500k group? Tell us exactly what you guys do and how anyone else can kind of help if they want to kind of help support the Shenmue campaign.
Sure, so Shenmue 500k is a Facebook presence as well as a web presence because we're currently working on a website actually. And what the Facebook presence is a couple of things actually. So we're a group that, anybody can go and join to discuss anything related to Shenmue, whether that be, the series, the story, their personal experiences, and the future of the series. So on an admin perspective, we also use the group to generate awareness for the series, and that's through, multiple campaigns. The main campaign being our Twitter campaign. Every third of the month, we do a Save Shenmue campaign on Twitter, and pretty much you can use any social media you like. However, Twitter seems to be the main presence of it, where every third of the month, like I said, third meaning Shenmue 3, obviously, we tweet to a bunch of different people with the hashtag of Save Shenmue.
So tell us a little bit about basically what Shenmue was in terms of the game. For those people who haven't seen it and who want to know what this game's about, why Shenmue?
So Shenmue was a game that was originally planned for the Sega Saturn, but was actually released on the Sega Dreamcast in 1998 in Japan, and then later released in 1999 for all other regions. And what it is it's pretty much a masterpiece. It is the epiphany of game development from the game developer who is very, world-renowned, the game developer Yu Suzuki. And what the game is it's an expression of the power of the Dreamcast in the form of a game that, some people would consider an RPG, action-adventure, but it's actually in its own genre called Full Reactivized Entertainment. And the game starts off as a story of a kid who runs home and finds his father murdered. And the game is, his quest on finding his father's murderer and uncovering the mystery as to why it happened.
So tell us a little bit about why Shenmue, why the story was never completed. Because we had Shenmue 1, that was the original game, was the precursor. Then we had the second game released on the Dreamcast, but also ported to the Xbox and other platforms, but Shenmue 3 never materialized. So why did that happen? Why didn't they want to continue with the series?
Okay, so Shenmue 3 was, I don't want to say it's canceled because it was never officially claimed to be canceled. It's kind of like, the whole Alan Wake 2 situation where it just keeps getting put off. It would come up in subject once in a while officially from Sega, but it's never been officially canceled. But the reason behind it, although there's no actual definition of the reason why Shenmue 3 hasn't happened, the main reason is because of the budget. The budget that Shenmue 3 would require is pretty extensive, so, it's a business risk. So somebody like Sega would not want to, invest in a Shenmue 3 unless they had an investment partner. So a budget combined with, I guess you could say, a little bit of political or personal issues within Sega because Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2 financially, had its issues. So Shenmue 3 is just seen as more of a business risk.
So tell us a little bit about like the first game initially. What kind of drew people towards Shenmue? Because for me, as a gaming fan, I loved it because of the intricacies of the story, and it was actually the first type of game that had more of an open world platform, as you had the character could go anywhere he wanted. You could play Sega arcade games in an arcade, and you could also play like a few different games in game before you could actually continue with your missions or what you even needed to do. So tell us a little bit about that and why the great game was so revolutionary and also so well loved.
Sure. So Shenmue, for its time, was groundbreaking. It was a game that a lot of people have never seen before. Whether it's its graphical fidelity, whether it's the soundtrack involved, or whether it's the general feeling of how Shenmue just kind of drags you into it. For me personally, Shenmue kind of like dragged me into it because it was so immersive, and the visual fidelity just drags you right in. It makes it feel like it's a real thing. And I feel like that's what drew people in because that at that point in the game industry, when you're jumping from say like Nintendo 64 to PlayStation, and then you pop into a game like Shenmue, it's that alluringness of the fact that you haven't seen a game with that graphical quality that initially drags you in. And then once you get into it, when the story starts evolving and you start seeing what's going on, and then you finally get to control the character and you get that feel for immersion of how much the game makes you want to play it, that's what really drags you into it initially.
So, in terms of like the game itself and the sales, how much did the initial two games actually make for Sega in terms of money? Because for them not warranting a third game, it must have been a huge loss. Was it anything big?
Well, the actual monetary values aren't technically publicized, so I can't accurately answer that question. The common thought was that the game costed $80 million, but that's actually been debunked. But I've heard ranges between 40 million to 80 million. Whether Sega returned a profit on the sales of Shenmue 1 and 2, that's never been officially stated. So I accurately cannot answer that question. It's only been said that Shenmue did have a flop on terms of return on investment. But like I said, the actual values have not been publicized as of today.
Was it true that Sega lost the rights to the game? Because apparently they just let the copyright expire on the licensing for it.
So what happened was the trademark of Shenmue, like the name Shenmue, was expired. So it's not like they lost the rights to the game. They merely lost the name Shenmue. So like I think the way it works, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not, I'm not an expert of copyright law. However, I believe now it's the case where any game can be called Shenmue because Sega doesn't have that exclusive name. But from what I understand about the industry, letting trademarks expire and then just reclaiming them is pretty common actually. Now, that can also lead to like a good thing because it could be the fact that they're letting the trademark expire because they're planning something and then they're just going to retake it. So, yeah, it's not that they lost the copyright and that they can't make Shenmue. It's just that they don't have the exclusive claim on the name Shenmue.
So going on from that, what did the fans want from the third game? Do they want it to like wrap the story up, or do they want a third game so that the series can continue? Because before, as it kind of left off in the second game, the ending was kind of unresolved, and then Sega just went quiet on making any more Shenmue games. So they haven't said anything about it. It's left in limbo. What do you think the fans need to do to kind of get that out there and get it happening?
So, as fans, the best thing we can do is show the demand for a Shenmue 3. So that's the reason why, places like Shenmue 500K, places like ShenmueDojo.com, places like Shenmue Master, we have these campaigns to generate awareness because we're just trying to say, hey, we want Shenmue 3. We're willing to pay for it. We really want this game. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. And we've generated so many great responses. High executives from Sony are aware of what we do because they've actually responded. And a news article actually came out that one of the Sony executives who's in charge of third-party marketing literally said that Shenmue is the most requested game on the Building the List campaign that Sony was doing prior to the PlayStation Experience event that was held in 2014, late 2014.
Has Sony reached out to the original creators to basically see if they can secure the rights?
For a while, before the Save Shenmue campaign, there was a campaign called Give You the Shenmue License, you as in Yu Suzuki. It later turns out that Sega is okay with allowing him to use the rights of Shenmue. The problem is finding an investment partner, as I stated before, because it's a monetary risk. So the only thing that they need is, an investment partner, so that they feel comfortable giving the license out and allowing the third game, if not the rest of the series, to be made.
So
Was there ever a Kickstarter on this? Sorry, that's a really obvious question, but was there ever a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo campaign? Anyone ever set that up? I'm not saying, there wasn't, but I just out of curiosity, surely that would have created a massive sort of stir.
So a crowdfunding campaign kind of splits the community's opinion half and half. There's potential pros and cons. I mean, as with anything. So no official Kickstarter or Indiegogo or any type of crowdfunding campaign that was official ever happened. But there have been people that made, let's fund Shenmue 3, but, they get shut down because obviously they don't have the right to be able to make a Kickstarter to do that. There was an interview with Yu Suzuki where I believe it was in mid-2014, I believe, where he was actually asked about crowdfunding because Yu Suzuki
Yeah, that's where the question came from. I had a nagging memory, something that he was, or gave a statement on it or something.
Yes, so he said that he was given information he was given information from the creator of Mega Man, Inafune, regarding how Inafune was able to fund Mighty Number 9. And Yu Suzuki said, yes, I've, heard of crowdfunding and it's an interesting subject, but there was no official statement made as to whether or not he would follow that, that path, that crowdfunding path. Now, personally, what my opinion is on the whole crowdfunding situation, it kind of scares me a little bit because I feel like there's such a huge demand for Shenmue 3, but when, your mouth comes to money and people don't want to pay into it, despite the fact that they want it, because you got to understand, crowdfunding is a risk. When you're giving money and you don't know if you're actually getting the product back. So some people wouldn't fund because of that. Now, I feel that that's going to create a false sense of demand for the game, and that bothers me very deeply. So, but then, maybe it will work out. I'm sure there's, systematic ways of doing a Kickstarter for a Shenmue 3 that would work out, but I feel that it's really risky. But if it's the only route that can be taken, then by all means, try it out.
what's the goal here? Because you guys are doing part of the Bring Back Shenmue campaign. What is the goal to kind of get this started and get interest in the third game? Because it seems you guys you've got a group together, people want it, there's a need. Why isn't anyone taking, why isn't Suzuki taking the logical steps to kind of get the game done?
I believe it's not a problem with Yu Suzuki, just because since he left Sega, I don't feel that he's directly involved with like the highest level decision making as to whether or not they're going to pursue. Obviously, I don't work for Sega, so I can't actually claim that to be true, but that's just what I think. I believe it's just getting Sega to feel comfortable with making the series. That's the only problem that sits between us and a continuation of the series. It's just getting Sega to be like, okay, we're going to focus on Shenmue, we're going to finish the series, let's do it. But like I said, then you start hitting all of the business risks, because Sega is a company. Obviously, they need to make money, and I'm assuming that from, whatever numbers they're running or previous feelings about the series, they don't want to do it because they feel that it's too risky.
I think it's safe to say as well that Sega don't write the checks they used to. I mean,
that's accurate.
They won't drift outside of Sonic territory very often because they're coming back to what you said, mate, which is they're so terrified of not making money on something.
Well, they also go directly to PC now and apps. Sega have actually stated they're not making console games anymore. So that must leave things in a bit of limbo, especially on the fact that, the only company that seems to be doing console ports is Atlas, who are allowed to do their own thing even though Sega purchased them a while back.
Yeah.
So with this decision being made, it just sounds like Shenmue it's never going to happen. So, what will it take for another company to take the rights on, like Sony, who actually want to give Shenmue a nice home, in a sense?
Well, I believe Sega, like, they're not biased. They're not going to be like, oh, we don't want you to give us money to make the game. I feel like if any company approached them with the funds they need, they would just partner with them to make it. Because Sega ultimately can, just decide who they want to do it with. I mean, obviously, like I said, I don't work for Sega, so I don't know how their internal relationships are with other companies. But I feel like at this point, since they understand there is a demand for it, I think, like, if any company just walked up to him and said, like, hey, here's $500 million to make Shenmue 3, 4, 5, and 6, I'm sure they would just jump right on it.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of the fan awareness. What are the fans doing right now to kind of get this moving and get this started? The Shenmue kind of the 500k, for instance. You've got the big group. You're still trying to sort out the website. You've got the Facebook page done. What are they doing to kind of immerse themselves and also directly try and get this from happening? How can someone like myself join up and help?
Sure. So since we are a Facebook group, obviously there's a lot of implied social media interactions between all the group members. So the main focuses are to generate awareness, to all the major companies out there who could play a role in the continuation of the series through hashtagging, specifically the hashtag Save Shenmue. That's how we generate awareness through social media, and that hashtag is, sent to many different executives. I'm talking like Adam Boyce, Gio Corsi from Sony. I've seen many people tag Shigeru Miyamoto. I've seen many people tag Phil Spencer from Xbox, and we've gotten responses from all of them. Phil Spencer tweeted out directly to all of us. Like, I've gotten direct responses from websites like Giant Bomb, so we know that people are watching, and the magnitude that the hashtag gets is, it's in the tens of hundreds of thousands. So that the awareness, it can be generated just by using, specific hashtagging and send it to certain people. Now, other than that, the internal group workings, things like morale and all that, are generated from everybody, coming together and talking like, hey, we love this game. This is my experience. This is your experience. What do you guys think of this? What do you guys think of that? Personally, me and, a handful of other people also create mods for the game to create new content, to keep generating that awareness. Because, like, for instance, I'm currently working on a new gameplay mechanic to add into the game. And when that hits, people are going to be like, wow, what is this? I've never seen this before. And then they'll start joining in and commenting. And that's just going to create, a nice solid base. And as that solid base strengthens, we get more people doing all of the external campaigning to generate the awareness. So it's like a really nice cycle, We get people to join. Everything looks cool in the group. They then, find out about all of the campaigning we're doing. They join the campaign, and that drags more people in when they start seeing that. So it's a nice cycle. It's a nice model. And it's been working. Looking at the actual Facebook group, like, we've, rise 1,000 members easy. Like, for instance, in the past 4 months, we went from, like, 17,000 people to 24,000 people. So,
Let's talk about the interesting stuff about the game as well, because obviously there's mods that are out on the internet at the moment that are that you can add to the game to kind of like liven things up a little bit. So let's talk about those a little. So tell us what kind of modding experience can you do to the Shenmue games to make them like to add interesting elements to them?
Sure. So the way Shenmue works particularly gives a lot of room to being able to change things, whether that's like swapping characters, rewriting subtitles, redubbing the game, whether it's like hacking how the physics system works to make things wonky, like making people fly, making cars fly. So you can, a lot of people like make mods to make like these funny situations. Like, for instance, there's a modder who goes by the name of Blue Mew, who is a friend of mine actually, and a colleague of mine. We plan to work together on a pretty interesting mod that I can't really talk about just yet. But for instance, like, he'll take a dog, right, and then hack its character model to give it like a human head, and then he'll have Rio interact in a cutscene with that dog and just change the subtitles and just make like a really funny sequence.
Yeah.
And that then becomes a
Nice.
video that gets posted to the internet, and that gets shared to the group, and a lot of people are like, wow, that's hilarious, and then, it just generates a lot of positive awareness. Some other mods that exist aren't really, they're mods, but they actually unlock content in the game that's there, but it's never seen in the game. So, like, unused assets, which is something I'll get into further into the discussion. So those mods also generate awareness because they actually kind of tell us a little bit as to where the series is going. And then, you also have your proof of concept mods. One that comes to mind, there's a mod that I'm working on called the bike mod. And what that does is allows Rio to ride a bicycle. And the reason why I'm working on that mod is because that ability, that gameplay feature was actually present in earlier alpha and beta builds of Shenmue, and was actually taken out of the retail version. But by looking at all the files at a hexadecimal level, like looking at all the internal workings of the files and how they work together, I actually found out that you can just re-add that feature into the game by just kind of changing things around, and that's what I'm working on right now. And once that's
awesome.
done, that's a whole new gameplay mechanic. Something for people to just mess around in, to experience Shenmue, as it was before, all the cuts were made to the game that were necessary. So mods present a way of generating awareness as well as understanding the game at a fundamental level, and also finding things in the game that either were not to be seen or were cut from like Shenmue 2 and were held for Shenmue 3. But since we never got Shenmue 3, that gives us a little bit of insight as to where the game was going, which I can give you a specific example of that, actually. So a specific example of that type of mod is, so there's a hacker who goes by the name LandDC, who is actually the guy that got me into Shenmue modding. So I'm going to give him a shout out, LandDC. So he is very well known in the Shenmue group because he was one of the first people that was finding all this stuff. So one of the mysteries in Shenmue is the character Shenhua. And at the end of Shenmue 2, you find out that she has like this mysterious stepfather. And we don't know who he is. We don't know what he does. He's never talked about. We only know of him as this guy that we were supposed to go meet, and we never found him. And then the game ends. But by converting the texture files in the game into like viewable photos, LandDC was able to see the kanji, and from that kanji they were able to actually translate what his name is. And I guess I can confirm that right now, what her stepfather's name is, and his name is Zongshu Yuan. So that is the name of Shenhua's stepfather. That's never found out in the game, and it's only found out by hacking the textures and translating the kanji that's found on it. So, it creates a really cool interest in the series, because that story that we're longing for, that Shenmue 3 story, there's little subtle details in the files that tell you about it. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
So, in terms of like the mod in the game, so people use it mostly to unlock other assets in the game, and also to create like little bits and pieces. Has any of the fans attempted to maybe even utilize those assets to make another game?
Yes, actually. That's currently a project that I'm not really in the power to talk about, but there are a couple of fan projects in the works right now, two of which I'm directly involved with. And actually, I'm sorry, one of them was actually released. We've been porting Rio to different games. Recently, there was a guy who is pretty famous in the Shenmue group, somebody I really look up to, and his name is Espiral, and he recently ported Rio Hazuki into Dead or Alive 5 last round for the PC, which actually got front page news on a couple of websites, which was pretty cool. That was actually done by taking model files from, it was either Shenmue or Sega All-Stars Racing. I'm not actually sure as to which game he took the textures from, but he was able to replace textures on Jackie and Akira from Virtua Fighter. The Virtua Fighter characters in Dead or Alive, and reskin them as Shenmue characters. So those publicly are the projects that are being worked on right now. The other ones I can't really talk about because it's not my project. It's not my right to talk about them.
Okay. So,
Yep.
in terms of that, in terms of the game itself and the fans reintegrating and making new games for it, has there been any concern like from Sega about any of these projects, or have they just been like, do what you like?
Nothing that I know of. I was contacted by Sega once, but I feel that it was kind of a spam email, to be honest, because I never got any official notice about it. It was just an email. As far as I know, none of my colleagues, none of my partners, and nobody that I've ever heard of has ever gotten anything like a DMCA takedown notice or a subpoena even from Sega for anything they've done. So as of right now, I cannot confirm any, takedowns from Sega for any type of fan projects related to Shenmue.
And that's weird because they will take down anything. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're all over the takedown crap. It's ridiculous.
So
Yeah, I'm surprised my Shenmue videos don't get hit because I'm always using music in them and all that. But I guess because they're not monetized, I guess they probably wouldn't tackle them.
So let's find out a little bit about you. What got you into
Sure.
the whole Shenmue movement in the first place?
Oh, wow. That's going way back. So, I started playing Shenmue in 1999. So I was, I guess, 11 years old when I first started playing the game, which is a whole story in itself. But, I played Shenmue 1 when it came out. I was totally hooked. I mean, especially since I was still in my formative years. Like, Shenmue was just, like, my world. And then Shenmue 2 came out. I was a little older, a little smarter, a little more understanding as to what's going on. I beat the game, and then I'm waiting for Shenmue 3, and it never happened. So come like 2003, 2004, still no Shenmue 3. And it was at that time that like we were all just like, yo, what's going on with Shenmue 3? And then ever since then, there have been so many different campaigns. And so yeah, I just been kind of involved with all of them, I guess, since like the awareness of Shenmue 3 not happening has actually started.
So what kind of got you interested in the movement then from there?
Oh, okay. So the movement that's currently going on, there was one day that I was on the website Shenmue Dojo, which is like pretty much the home of the Shenmue communities. Because Shenmue Dojo has been in existence since, I believe, 2002, 2001, 2002. And somebody was like, hey, there's a Facebook group called Shenmue 500K. And at the time, there was like, like maybe 8,000, 9,000 members. I joined in, and then somebody from Shenmue 500K was like, oh, you're this guy at Shenmue Dojo. You want to be an admin here? And I was like, yeah, sure. So once they gave me adminship, they told me about all the campaigns and inner workings. And I didn't actually hear about them beforehand because I believe they were just in their infancy of creating the campaigns. And, then I took my admin rights and I helped them work on the campaigns. And, ever since, it's just been going on. So I guess you could say what got me involved was somebody adding me as an admin to the Shenmue 500K group and just telling me what they're doing, and I assisted them, and it all went. So.
And it became your crack.
So,
Yeah.
So going on from that, Nick, have you got any questions you want to ask James?
And this is just, and you don't have to spoil anything about the story, but I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shenmue 2 ended on a cliffhanger, right?
Yes, it did. It did end in a cliffhanger.
It just amazes me that I understand the business decision of not wanting to take a risk on it, but the game was left on a cliffhanger. That seems just like a big giant middle finger to the fans of the series that there's no, proper ending to the story. It's like if Star Wars Episode 5 and that was it. You didn't get you got kind of a bit of a cliffhanger ending in a sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think the justification for the fact that Shenmue 2 ends on a cliffhanger, there's two major thoughts that come to mind. For one, Shenmue 2 was definitely either cut short or the last chapter was added on when it was kind of like, oh, maybe Shenmue 3 might not happen, so we're going to give them a taste as to where Shenmue 3 might have been going, because the actual ending of the chapter before you get to the last chapter of Shenmue 2 is actually really well done. It would have been a great ending by itself if, the next game was going to happen. So I feel like the Guilin chapter might have been a result of, hey, there's something going on, so maybe we might want to throw the first chapter of Shenmue 3 into Shenmue 2. Or they knew at the time, or they thought at the time, they were going to make Shenmue 3, so Shenmue 2 ended on a cliffhanger, and then they were just going to go right into Shenmue 3, not realizing that it wasn't actually going to happen. Because Shenmue 2's cliffhanger ends with, this reciting of the poem, the prophecy that you hear, occasionally in the series and in the introductions to the game. And then it literally says the story continues on. So I feel like the cliffhanger was there because they were just, going to go right into Shenmue 3. So to them, it wasn't really a cliffhanger, but, now it is because we never resolved that cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So, going on from that, isn't there other ways that they could get the finality to it, in a sense, like maybe doing novels, or even
Animated movie would work for me.
an animated movie, or even an app game that could kind of sum everything up and finalize the game, so fans at least get what they want at the end?
Yes, that's true. They could do that. But personally, I have a problem with releasing Shenmue as anything other than a game. And that's because of the fact that Shenmue is more than just a story. It's an entire experience. The fundamental game, like mechanics and the fundamental storytelling, all revolves around this idea. And that's why the genre of the game is literally called free, full reactive eyes entertainment.
Well, it was never envisioned to be anything other than the format it exists in. So while I could handle watching an animated movie, you're technically being short-sold.
Exactly, that is exactly accurate. Because Shenmue, like, it makes you want to invest your time. It makes you want to invest yourself in the game, and it does that through, its like ability to immerse you, its ability to realistically depict, life, its ability to drag you in with this alluring music, and giving you the ability to explore, and giving you the downtime between, things that you need to do in the game to just let you do whatever, fuck all, whatever you want. And it just generates this amazing experience that you'll never be able to get in any other type of media. Like Shenmue's model does not really fit a transmedia style. It just works as a game. And that's personally, I mean, I realize I'm a little bit selfish because we don't have the story, but I just feel like it's not Shenmue if it's not a video game.
I imagine it must have been very, very difficult for whoever marketed that idea or tried to sell that idea to Sega in the first place. Which is, are you crazy? How is this even possible? This, like you said, it transcends everything. Which is, this isn't a game. There is a start and a finish, but everything in between is kind of a blurred line. How do you even go about? Bro, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall in that meeting when they were trying to pitch this idea.
Well, it's one of those things as well where it was the first open world game out there. You could do, it wasn't linear. Didn't have to do one thing. There was no set path. You can do a number of things and it will still get you to the same direction. So it's kind of a weird situation that's happened in terms of, what direction the game would go in would be totally up to you.
Yeah. Head in this direction, but anything else in between that, entirely up to you.
Pretty much.
Exactly.
Now, James,
can I ask a quick geeky question?
Yeah, go on, Dave.
What was one of the things? Because this is one of the first. I mean, I'm one of those people when he plays games who likes just goof around, cock about and just push the game or the engine or whatever and see where you can go. But when you fell in love with the first game, what was one of the things in it that you just that just absolutely blew your world away? Which is, you've done this in a video game. Because I got two that come to my mind, but I'd just be curious if you have any, which is, this is something special right here, the fact that I'm actually able to do this within this game.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can come with many examples. I mean, mind you, I was like 11 when I first played the game, so pretty much everything blew my mind. But in hindsight, what really drew me in was a couple of things. For one, I was a huge fan of Yu Suzuki's arcade games before I even knew Shenmue. So like Afterburner, Hang On. So the fact that I can go, it's like video game Inception. Inside the video game, I can go and play arcade games. And to me, that was just amazing because I also have a deep interest in emulation. And I'm just like, wow, this is really cool. In this video game, I can go to an arcade and play video games. That's so awesome. What also dragged me like really into it as a back then was the fact that the game is entirely voiced, which back then was something that was completely unheard of. It's like absurd to think that every line in Shenmue has dialogue behind it, and like even looking at the files themselves that house the voice files, it's amazing like that they were able to fit all that into just a GD-ROM that's like 1.2 gigabytes. So like it's fascinating. That was another thing that really drew me in. And what also drew me in was all of the subtle details in the game. Like if you just stand there in the game, right? You just stand in one location and just stare into the environment. You see trees blowing, you see people doing their thing, you see people walking around, entering, leaving stores, people standing next to each other as if they're having a conversation. A little girl comes by, takes care of a cat. Eventually that cat is now fine and you see the cat sitting on a windowsill. Like
Guess you
it's
could
just
say it's the
so
first real sort of model of true life in a video game, really. True depiction of modern life.
exactly. One of the phrases that comes to mind was before Shenmue, it was called Project Berkeley. That was the second working title. No, I'm sorry, that was the it's either the second or the third working title for the game, either in front of or behind Virtual Fighter RPG. And when it was called Project Berkeley, Yu Suzuki would commonly say, "Can you even call this a game?" Like that was in the marketing material. Like there's a video that comes with the Japanese copy of Virtual Fighter 3 TB for the Dreamcast, and that phrase is like deeply invested into. There's a video in there that kind of talks about Project Berkeley and Yu Suzuki's vision with the game. And it's all based around the fact that he wants to blur the lines between reality and a video game. And the fact that he's like, can you even call this a game? And in hindsight, to this day, to me, it's like, it's literally its own world. It's just that amazing.
Well, one of the, I mean, you talked about the arcade bit that because that's the era of arcades I grew up in. So that was, like you said, Inception in a game. That was I
Yeah.
absolutely adored that. But and it's funny because this is why the other thing I was going to talk about, and you touched upon it with what some of the original titles were for this game, which is like Virtua Fighter, RPG, and stuff like that. What blew me away about this game was, which I guess is difficult. It's easier to say in hindsight because when we've got stuff like Grand Theft Auto since, which obviously exists because of this, your
Yep.
fighting mechanics are crap. Whereas in this, your fighting mechanics are basically the fighting mechanics from the Virtua Fighter series. So even outside of the main style of gameplay, like exploration and stuff like that, and storytelling, you've got a game that's more competent a fighter than most fighters that tried to be at the time, and that just rocked my tiny little world. That hang on a minute, you mean I've got that full, obviously not right at the start, that full list of moves and that capability in a game that's not even technically really a fighter? That blew my face off.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it all falls into the fact that it's trying to simulate, life. In the story, Ryo Hazuki is a martial artist. He's the son of a master of a martial art. So thus, in the story, obviously, he's going to be good at martial arts. So they compensate with that by giving you a full VF system. Not to mention, Shenmue was originally supposed to be Virtual Fighter RPG. The story was supposed to focus around Akira. So obviously, that's gonna put the possibility of a fighting system evolving, with the game itself. So thus the game has a fighting system.
So, Nick, you got anything else that you wanna say on this?
I got nothing. Honestly, I want to get into Shenmue. I just need to find the game at a good price.
So yeah, let's talk about reselling. You know, James, have you seen anybody actually purchase or sell Shenmue? How much is it going for at the moment?
So I see the prices range actually because since Shenmue is a pretty popular game, people try to label it as like rare on eBay and sell for a higher price. But I mean, Shenmue obviously is a priceless game. But if you were actually put a sorry, that was really corny. Shenmue is
No
a
pun
priceless game.
intended.
God damn.
Sorry, that's the beer talking. All right. So I've seen people sell it for from $15 to 15 US dollars to anywhere up to like 600 US dollars, depending on which build of the game it is, whether it's signed or not, what condition it's in, and which region it's from, because Shenmue is actually pretty different per region, believe it or not. The games actually differ a little bit.
So
I got a really horrible confession to make right now. My copy of Shenmue 2 is because I have a Dreamcast, thanks to the lovely Mr. Burhan here. My copy of Shenmue 2 is the Xbox one, but it was just for me. It was
no problem.
It was the most affordable way. Coming back to what you said, but it was the most affordable way to get it.
No, I totally agree with that. Actually, for me, the Xbox version was the first version of Shenmue 2 I actually played, because in the U.S. we never got an NTSC release, thanks to Peter Moore, but that's a whole other story.
Plus, it comes with that really little nice extra DVD where you get the first game recaptured, or retold. Well, not it's like it's the start of a show which is previously on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but you get the whole of Shenmue told to you on a bonus DVD disc. So it was basically saying, here you go, people, here's a jump-on point if you've never played the first game. It was all accessible, is what I'm trying to say, basically.
Yeah, to me, it's like an 80s montage, like an 80s movie montage, because that DVD, like, I hate to say it, is very poorly put together. And actually, going back to my previous statement about how Shenmue doesn't make a good movie, that DVD is a perfect example. Because Shenmue, like, tries to be, a simulation of life. And when you just break that down into segments, like, it just doesn't feel like it makes sense. Coming from somebody, who has seen pretty much everything in the game, not to mention that DVD doesn't really cover, like, a lot of the really interesting parts of Shenmue. It just kind of gives you a general overview, but it allows you to miss so much. But actually, the Xbox version of Shenmue 2, like, a lot of people don't like it for a couple of reasons, because for one, it's kind of like a port of the Dreamcast version, so there's a lot of problems with it. Like, from a technical standpoint, the graphics with transparencies in them, so, like, to be technical, for any listeners who are, technical about how the textures work, the PVR textures that are compressed with a VQ3 format that allows for transparencies, on the Xbox version, those transparencies are null. So things that you normally should be able to see through, you can't. So you kind of lose a little bit of graphical fidelity with the Xbox version. And plus, the Xbox version was born under, political issues. Like, it shouldn't have been put on the Xbox, or at least it should have been on the Dreamcast and the Xbox. But the reason why it was, the rights were given over to the Xbox, apparently, and I can't confirm this because obviously, I wasn't there, I was not involved. Apparently, it has to do with the fact that there was a man named Peter Moore.
I know, yeah. Well, there's some whole massive conspiracy theories about this.
Yeah, I actually uploaded a YouTube video of him talking about how, like, somebody called him out in an airport, saying, like, you're the asshole that gave Shenmue to Xbox, which was a clip from a podcast. I forget the name of the podcast, but I did credit it in the video. So yeah, there definitely is a big conspiracy. I mean, like, anybody who's, like, a huge fan of the Dreamcast usually dislikes Peter Moore for that reason. It's sad too, because the rumor has it they were working on a North American release of Shenmue 2, but it was pretty much canned because of it. So it kind of sucks that we didn't get on. Made me
laugh that for once that there was a PAL UK version of a game in a market that, from a financial perspective, is far smaller than North America, and yet you guys got shafted and not us.
Yeah, I just feel like it has to do with how Sega is, like, co-located in different regions. So the U.S. region was, like, moving on already, and thus, the project was canceled to bring it over to North America, which is sad too, because the Xbox wasn't doing good financially at the time Shenmue 2 came out. So, like, Shenmue 2, which is a game that should have sold, millions upon millions of copies, because it's, it's an expression of how game industries can show video games to be art, but it was released on a platform that was doing absolute crap at the time. So thus, the fan base, or not really the fan base, but the installment base of the Xbox, there's just not enough out there for people to buy Shenmue 2 and, like, show that, it can do well. Like, what I'm trying to say is it was pushed into a market where there was nobody there to buy it.
Well, it was pushed in, yeah, it was pushed. Also, it was pushed into a market that wasn't its demographic, in the sense that if you're a diehard Sega fan and you grew up on Shenmue and stuff like that, then it's safe to say you probably weren't going to be someone, or there wouldn't be an equivalent of your mindset who owned an Xbox at the time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, it was cool because my Dreamcast stopped working, and I had just gotten an Xbox, and then boom, Shenmue 2 came out on it. So like, I was just like, oh yeah, I can finally play Shenmue 2. But I mean, a great example as to like, how that like really, or how people responded to that in North America. There was, such a massive like increase in importing Shenmue 2 from the UK into the US. Like back in like those days, every GameStop had multiple copies of the PAL version of Shenmue 2 with
Wow.
an actual boot disc to boot it on a North American Dreamcast because obviously it's region locked. So I mean, it was
I didn't
obvious
know
that
that.
everybody
I
reacted
thought
the way.
my brain just always went with the idea with like what I did with my Japanese Mega Drive, which obviously is decades before, which is you just grey imported it, but actual genuine, high street retailers were selling copies of the PAL version. That's amazing. That's unheard of. That must have been a precedent at the time.
Yeah, because the Xbox
Yeah,
itself was
definitely.
region locked until people found out how to mod the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Modding the Xbox and the Dreamcast, that was a very fun time.
Oh,
I
where the
remember.
hell was the
Scary
last time I
too.
turned on my Dreamcast? It was probably, I think I played some games on the anniversary of the Dreamcast this past year, but that was it. I gotta try and get a copy of Shenmue. Like, that's one game, like I said, that just everyone who's rage loves it. Everyone who's played it loves it, and it's like, I gotta find this and at least play it and try it out.
Yeah, if you want, hit me up after the podcast. I'll be more than happy.
James disappeared, folks. He should be back in a second. James?
Oh, shit.
James, you there? He looks like he's disappeared. We should hurry have him back in a second. James? Right, let's bring him back into the call and see what we can do.
Snacky time, by the way.
It
God
is snack
damn.
time.
Damn, I was gonna try and get a copy of Shenmue. Shit.
See, this is what
Sure.
happens.
Damn you, Connery gods!
Yeah, the Sean Connery gods are not helping right now.
I'm gonna ask him to make a specific mod to the game for me. I want Connery.
Hey,
Hey, James. You disappeared. As you were saying?
where did I leave off at?
You were talking to Nick.
You were telling Nick
Oh,
that you
yeah,
were going to
yeah.
give him a copy of... That you were going to sort him out a copy of Shenmue.
Yeah, if you want, after the podcast. Like, I have like 15 copies of Shenmue.
Holy shit!
So,
Damn.
if you want, yeah. It's for a bunch of reasons, like modding reasons that I have a bunch of copies
Does
of
that
it.
mean in the
You know,
circles you travel in, you and all your modding mates use Shenmue as currency?
Yeah, I guess. No, I do have some very sought-after copies of Shenmue. I have one that's actually signed by Yu Suzuki. I had him sign it 2007, I believe, or 2006. It was a while ago. That was such a surreal time. But yeah, if you want, I'd be more than happy to send you over a copy. You can try it out. Like maybe I'll send you the first disc. If you like it, I can probably load you the rest. And then you just send it right
Nice.
back. I don't have any PAL copies. I only have NTSC copies, but it's really easy to boot, North American
Which is
copies.
fine,
on a
because I'm
PAL.
NTSC anyway.
Oh, okay.
So-
I'm sorry. I thought you had a PAL Dreamcast.
No, I don't.
So,
I have a couple of the PAL controllers with the blue swirl, so...
That's just going to say what the one
Weirdly
thing that
enough.
makes me laugh about the Dreamcast, and with my one that tanked, which is why Burhan sent me one, which is
Yeah.
on my Facebook page. The number of North Americans you said, if that's dead, can you send me the lid? Why? Because your swirl's the proper color.
well, remember, the innards of your Dreamcast belong to me.
Oh, that's right, true.
So,
Yeah,
All your base belong to me.
exactly.
Nice.
And so tell me a little bit about what you do, James. What's your expertise in this, and what's your experience?
You
in
said
terms of-
doo-doo.
Exactly. In terms of the modding community, tell me about...
Why,
this-
yes, I do.
tell me about your modding experience in the modding community and how... And what you're like. Because you told us a fun story that you actually... you work in IT, correct?
Yes, I do. I am a trained. I'm trained in a couple of different fields, actually. My current expertise is Linux systems network engineering. So I do a lot of computer stuff with Linux. I'm also, trained in Windows and OS X, Macintosh. And then outside of that, I also study theoretical physics, as well as I did a lot of kitchen work in my time. So I'm, a certified like utility worker, pretty much.
And you also you worked on like networking and networking services because you were telling us that you helped out with a video streaming service, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I provided a little bit of coding and monitoring a major video streaming service,
So how did you
which
get?
falls into the network engineering portion that I was talking about. That's like a little bit of a subgenre to that major bucket list.
How did you get into that? Basically, are you self-trained or did you have to go for the certificates and stuff?
So I'm mostly self-trained, but for the job that I currently have, I did have to get professionally certified. The self-training just comes out of like my own hobby work I did during, my younger years and then through high school and then, things I do research on nowadays.
Was that like via the modding community?
Say it again?
Did you do this via the modding community, like when you used to mod games and bits and pieces? Is that how you learned how to code, or did you just like, hey, I think I want to learn to code? Let's pick up a book somewhere.
The initial interest that actually led to my career, I actually can credit that to Shenmue. That's actually true. So, when the modding
What you're
started
saying is, to the kids out there, remember, kids, there's nothing wrong with video games.
Exactly. If I didn't play video games as a kid, I don't know who I would be at this time. Like, I don't know what James Reiner would be. I have no idea. I could be, I don't even know. I have no idea.
Long-distance truck driver.
Yes. Actually, I do have a lot of truck drivers in my family, so most likely.
Well, then, see, the thing is, if you were a long-distance truck driver, it'd be really bad because you wouldn't know what Shenmue was, but if you were a truck driver, you should have a Shenmue tattoo on your arm.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I could
So
get,
you can stick it out the window and give it that half suntan look.
Yeah, I could do my campaigning by throwing my arm out the window. Be like, hey, guys, play Shenmue.
Damn.
No, so going back to the question, so what got me interested, or I'm losing my train of thought. However, so Mike, could you repeat the question, please? I think I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, basically, what kind of got you into this line of work? Were you self-trained, or was it via your own modding interest that you started to code, or did you just one day say, hey, there's money in this, let's do it?
Oh, okay. So initially I did have a computer at a young age and I was pretty interested in it, but I was, not as interested as I probably should have been. But Shenmue touched me so much at a young age, and when the modding community
Probably should have
started
called the police then, sorry. Ba-da-bum.
Oh man, that Shenmue, man, he just can't stop. So when the modding started to happen through the likes of, the veteran Shenmue Dojo members such as Len DC, Q, and anybody else who I failed to remember at the time, when they started pumping out material, it got me so interested because I was like, oh my god, this game has things that I've never seen before hidden inside of it. And to me, that's such an interesting thing. It also, that same mindset applies to why I study physics and whatnot.
Easter eggs.
And say it again?
Easter eggs, basically. But not ones that are there to be deliberately found. The most rewarding kind.
Exactly. And when I started looking into how to actually look at these hidden assets, that's when I started learning about things like hex editing, things like reverse engineering source code to figure out how things work, to be able to manipulate those mechanics to create the environment that I need to be in to look at those hidden assets. And it was building upon that. Hello?
Still here?
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought the call got dropped. It was building upon that idea that, eventually led to me obtaining a general knowledge as to how computers work. And then once I had that, I just got interested in computers in general, and then thus I based my entire career off of it. So you could pretty much say my entire career, everything that I'm trained in, is all from Shenmue.
Give the guy a job, Sega, just saying.
So in terms of like the work that you do now, you also freelance on your own, don't you?
Yes, I do. I do freelance, not as much as I used to, but right now I only do freelance work as pretty much either a consultant if you need help either building a network, or if you need help building a computer, if you need help figuring out problems. Then I also do a little bit of freelance, I guess you could say like a Mr. Fix-It. Like people will call me and be like, hey, something's wrong with my computer, and I'll just come over and be like, all right, let me figure it out, see what's going on. and that's pretty much it. Everything else would be considered going against my company, so that's the only freelance work that I do at this time.
So, you know, in terms of your obsession with gaming, is it strictly to Shenmue, or do you play like other games?
What's your platform of choice?
Ooh, I play a lot of video games. I'm just letting you know right now. Shenmue is my number one, obviously. But I also, even almost at a professional level, I've been playing Dance Dance Revolution for about 14 years now.
You must have
So,
some sick moves.
yeah, I did hold a couple of world records at a certain point, but they've been since
Nice.
broken. I do have the unofficial claim to the world record of Dr. Wario because I believe I'm the only person to beat level 99 in that game. Other than that, I'm hugely addicted to Halo, the original Halo, which I'm also heavily involved with the modding community with that.
Nice.
I'm also very into Half-Life, and I am also horribly obsessed, but close to the point of where it's Shenmue level obsession with Mortal Kombat, actually.
Nice.
So those are my mains. I also played, a couple thousand hours of Morrowind. And I'm also, and I don't know if I should be saying this because people give me a lot of flack for it. I am a huge, huge, huge fan of Final Fantasy X too.
Controversial.
Wow.
Yeah,
See, I have not finished
people
that one. I really like 10 though.
Yeah, 10 was fantastic, but 10-2, like, there's just a lot of reasons why I like it better. Like, 10 is a perfect game, don't get me wrong. Final Fantasy X is fantastic, the soundtrack, the game, the immersion.
Mm-hmm.
But 10-2 just has this weird alluriness to it that I just don't find in many other games.
And
I think it's because
service.
it's not afraid to do what it has to do. Like, 10
You can
really good
tell that by
following.
its title alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a slight obsession with Mortal Kombat myself because I find that the new games from 9 and 10, the story is so sublime. It's just got an amazing story to it, and you never
definitely.
You never usually see this in the type of Mortal Kombat games. You know, for Mortal Kombat, everyone expects it to be punchy, freaky time. So it's a very different kind of game from what it set out to be previously.
Yeah,
I always
definitely.
like
I mean,
DC
Mortal Kombat
because
has a lot of...
It's just nice to be able to kill Superman for once. I'm quite surprised they left the finishing moves in against DC characters, but...
Yeah, Mortal Kombat definitely like has a lot of lore in it. It's kind of not really implied though in the first 3 games. But when you get like really into it, like MK's lore, it's really cool too. It's very interesting. There's a lot of it, especially now, like you said, MK9 and MKX. Their story modes really elaborate on it, despite the fact that it's a different timeline. A lot of the bases for all the interactions between the characters are the same, so you can kind of get a feeling for the lore there.
Yeah.
By the way, just off the cuff, I've just come up with the greatest thing to wear more awareness for the Shenmue Bring Back Shenmue campaign that you could put in the Facebook page, which is I do Shenmue, do you? I think it's pretty catchy.
Or Shenmue touched me in all the right places.
Yeah, I gotta. I'm gonna take a photo of myself and just make a meme out of it.
Yeah.
Shenmue touched me in all the right places. Just like a big smile.
Oh my
God!
god.
I'm gonna go dark now. You could hold a doll up and go. So show me where Shenmue touched you.
Oh my god.
Dave's
Sorry.
White's opinions do not reflect those opinions of the Shenmue 500K or I Got
I'll
Gameplay.
be perfectly honest. My opinions don't even reflect my own opinions sometimes.
So,
it's his gimmick. He goes very, very dark.
Last but not least, James, where do we lay in terms of the hope of Shenmue coming back? Do you think it's going to happen?
That is really the burning question. I think, whether it's from my own thoughts, my own biasness, I think that I believe Shenmue 3 is going to happen.
So, what we started this, on this episode, and we're going to be carrying this on for next week when we do an interview with Fungo. James, what games are you currently playing?
Currently, I'm playing Mortal Kombat X.
On what
I
system?
just finished PlayStation 4.
I got it on Xbox One. I don't have a PS4, so...
I don't have either. Stop rubbing it in my faces.
It's
God damn.
good. They're pretty much the same console, to be honest. They're
Yeah.
almost no different except for the GPU.
Really, except the controller. So
Yeah, definitely. Aside from Mortal Kombat X, I'm about to start playing Alien Isolation. I had just
That's
finished
amazing,
Snatcher on
that
the
game. Sorry, that game is amazing, but you got to play it only at night and with all the lights off, because it will probably shit you up.
I intend on playing it with the Oculus.
Mm.
I'm gonna probably have a heart attack.
Very few games have ever scared me, apart from the original Silent Hill and Resident Evil 2. But yeah, I completed Isolation, and it's like more games should be like this. It's not a game; it's a total experience. Plus, people, if you go to your local supermarket right now, at least in this country, you can pick it up for £18.
And Dave, what are you playing currently?
I'm stuck in the middle of I'm recampaigning because I'm old school and cheap like that. I'm recampaigning Battlefield Bad Company 2 because I had so much, and it's my favorite entry in the series because I had so much fun with Battlefield Hardline and don't understand the hatred it got. Thought that game was absolutely amazing.
Nick, what about you?
a lot of Mortal Kombat 10, trying to finish the story, trying to finish Strider on Xbox One, and then I'm going to move on to Rayman Legends on the Xbox One, Mortal Kombat DLC. So I'm pretty much all over the place.
Nice.
So no Supercard then?
Oh no, a lot of Supercard, but I think that goes without saying.
And myself, I'm playing the new Mario Kart 8 DLC Pack 2. Just recently downloaded that. 200cc is a fucking bitch. I mean, ridiculous.
Brutal. Holy shit.
If you want to play like you're in a pinball game, that's what 200cc is. I don't know any... I tried to freaking, like... do like speed jumps and stuff, and I just fall off cliffs. Try playing 200cc Rainbow Road, and I don't mean the other two Rainbow Roads like the N64 one or the Rainbow Road for the current game. Play the Rainbow Road for the NES that came in DLC Pack 1, and I will guarantee
Super Nintendo, yeah.
Yeah, you will die. You will die.
A lot.
A lot.
Oh man.
And I'm also playing
I haven't
Dragon
touched
Age.
it.
Oh, I'm playing Dragon Age Inquisition as well. And James, if you want to add me, I will give you my links to like my PlayStation, my 360, and also Wii U. And also, do you have a YouTube channel that you wanna plug to everybody?
Sure. So I would like to plug three YouTube channels. So there's the main Shenmue Dojo YouTube channel where you can find many, many different videos regarding Shenmue, including pretty much the entire official soundtrack with extended versions, so like 2-hour versions of most of the music in the game. Then there is the YouTube channel for one of my colleagues. His name is Blue Mew, which is also the name of his channel. So it's youtube.com/BlueMew, BLUEMUE, like the end of Shenmue. And he makes a lot of great mod videos. He also has a collection of, entire dialogues from NPCs. So like there will be like an NPC, and then he'll take every single word that they'll ever say to you and make a video out of it. And he makes, like videos of uncommon things you can discover in the game. And then my personal YouTube channel is youtube.com/Lord Conti, LORDCANTI, which is named after the character Lord Conti from an anime called FLCL, which is something I'm also very obsessed with.
Sorry,
and what I do there...
Oh, he didn't go to the dark place, did he? Lord Conti.
My YouTube channel originally started as a repository for some of my personal videos, but I had then since made it into a gaming channel with a focus on Shenmue. However, I do cover other games, and then I also port my Twitch VODs to that channel.
But make sure you put all of these in the doohickey down below.
Of course, yes. And you can also basically make sure that you get all these in the doohickey down below. Now, Dave and Nick, where can we find you both?
All right,
you just made it sound like we're dating.
Yeah, yes, you are. We should call you Dink, as in you're a couple.
What the hell's Doink then?
Well, if you want to doink Dave, do it in private, honestly.
You ain't doinking me unless you buy me a steak dinner first.
Well, in Dave's rules, you've got to buy him a kebab first.
I had one yesterday. I had pizza tonight. My cholesterol must be through the roof.
Maybe I think you probably don't want to doink him then, because it'll probably end up like we're looking like an
I'll
explosion.
clog your veins.
It would be an
Good God.
explosion. An explosion would probably
I
happen.
can't feel my
there.
legs.
Get to the chopper now. So yeah, where can we find you both?
All right, you can find me over on YouTube at the Gaming Pegasus 187. I'm on Twitter at Gaming Pegasus 187. I'm on Facebook at Nick Horacek. I'm on Xbox Live, Wii U, Instagram, Supercard at Pegasus 187. I'm all over the place. I'm on Slamcast every Friday night. I'm hosting this, doing the live or the pre-tape for I Got Gameplay next week, and the Slamcast duties next week since Burhan will not be available. Brandon will be back, but now we have no Burhan.
Yeah, you'll be Burhanless. Because I'm going to be at 5 a.m. Friday morning. I'm going to be meeting Stephen.
Does that mean
Horn
you
at
don't
the-
have love
at the
handles?
train
You have
station.
burr handles.
I don't even have love handles anymore. I gym so much that my love handles are gone.
How does Jim feel about this? Sorry.
Yeah, he doesn't mind. But yeah, you want to find me? You can do. YouTube.com/TheNerdGenius. Next week's episode is going to be a pre-tape. We've got Fungo on, and he's going to be talking Bloodborne.
Can I plug?
Also, YouTube.com. I got gameplay as well if you want to check the show out. This will be uploaded to the Retro Unlimited network, of course. And Dave, where can we find you?
I'm not going dark. I think I went dark enough just now. You can find me on YouTube at Lawnboys Post 1975. If you like your retro games, your modern games, a good old-fashioned vlog, waffle, pickup videos, or just me chewing the cud and talking utter bollocks with a can of beer in my hand, find me there. And you can also find me on Facebook at Dave Wade.
Also, you can find us on I Got Gameplay, Facebook.com I Got Gameplay. Our Silent Hill Kickstarter is going to be debuting next week. So make sure that you're there, guys. We're talking... We're going to basically have the Bloodborne episode with Fungo, of course. If you want to find out my opinions on the new Batman vs. Superman trailer, you can do by going to Xander Scullion's YouTube channel, youtube.com/Xander Scullion. And you can check out a video we've done, which is episode 2 of E-Tank, where myself and Xander will be discussing our top 5 things about the Dark Knight teaser trailer. With the exception of the Jared Leto's Joker poster, which looks...
Oh.
He looks like he's doing an impression for Home Alone. I have no idea what the fuck... That's
He
not-
looks like he's directly injected crack into his gums.
I know, it's just...
Well, if you want a little bit of a reprieve from that, go to Sasha Banks' Instagram. You're welcome.
Okay, okay, I'm gonna do that. Can you post me her Instagram link at the bottom there? Because, you know...
Yeah.
So...
I just found out today.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you to James Reiner for joining us tonight. And,
Thank you very much, mate. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, and make sure you go
Yeah, it
to
was
the
great.
Facebook 500k group if you want to learn more about Shenmue, of course. So, what's the link to the Facebook group, James?
It is facebook.com/Shenmue500K.
So make sure you check that out. And now for Lawn Boys Post 1975, of course, with Nick Horacek. For James Reiner, this is Michael Burhan saying that we got gameplay. Have you?
Yes, I do.